You are tuned to the Witching Hours, and I'm your host, Kanaska Carter. Tonight we are going to be talking about Mothman and whether or not this is associated with insectoid aliens, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, or perhaps even humanoids from the future. In southern Ohio and northern West Virginia, the legend of Mothman, very much so believed by many locals, and in Point Pleasant, which is in West Virginia, USA. So December 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. 2 of the people who had died were not found. They were not retrieved from the accident. So the story of Mothman started months prior to the actual collapse of the bridge. November 1966, Mothman sightings began, and it was described as a 7-foot-tall being with red eyes the size of baseballs, and it was like a winged humanoid creature. So the red eyes would actually glow, and they were the size of a fist, or the size of a baseball. So at least 100 sightings from November 1966 to December 1967. Some of the first witnesses were 2 couples at a local gathering spot at the power plant. As they approached, one of the women said, "What is this guy doing standing in the road?" So as they approached and got closer to this creature, she said the wings appeared to be like angel wings way above its head. So what could that be? Is it a potential insectoid alien? She said that's not a man. The Mothman quickly chased their car at superhuman speed. So the women were in shock and actually ended up having to be hospitalized for shock. All witnesses had the same description: faceless, red-eyed freak who they said seemed to have a message to convey. So what was the message that it was trying to convey? Carolyn Marcella, who owns a local diner, her sister saw the Mothman. And her sister, along with many other people, will not agree to do an interview. So the vast majority of the witnesses, they do not want to be interviewed for whatever reason they might have. Perhaps fear of seeing the creature again. Maybe they're afraid the government's going to come after them or something like that. So they refused to agree to be interviewed. And she said, when I seen them big red eyes, I was out of there. I can't tell you what the rest of him looks like. That is what one of the witnesses described it as. It always has the big red eyes. So many people of all ages and walks of life have seen Mothman, including children, the elderly, even respected business people have seen Mothman. People were fearful of ridicule, and they said it may have just been a large bird of some sort, and others say it was not a bird. So someone was fishing one day and witnessed fluorescent green stuff coming out from the water. After the Silver Bridge collapse, the sightings came to an end. It came to a climax. The Mothman sightings stopped after the bridge collapsed. So I really think that might be associated in some way. I'm going to get into that later, why I think it is related. So curious if the Mothman was perhaps near the bridge. I'm curious, maybe it died when it collapsed, and that's why the sightings came to an abrupt halt. So could Mothman be an insectoid humanoid? That's what it sounds like. It's like a bug humanoid. So it was first seen on November 12th, 1966 by grave diggers. Sightings are believed to have begun in early 1900s and always described as large winged creatures with red eyes. On November 15th, there was an incident. As soon as I heard that date, I immediately thought about how I saw the rake on November 15th, 2015, which looks like a demon. I've talked about that on this show many times. Is this a coincidence? Maybe certain dates you'll have sightings, and maybe it just happens every day. So a very strange thing is people began to have nightmares, creepy dreams about Christmas presents floating down the river. And they would also have dreams of people drowning, like premonitions, precognitive dreaming. December 15th, 1967 was when the Silver Bridge collapsed into the river, and this is very close to Christmas. It was like 2 weeks before Christmas. So the premonitions and the precognitive dreams were correct. It's like they knew there was going to be some sort of a tragedy coming. So televisions were burning out everywhere in the area, and telephones were ringing at all hours of the day and night, and when people would pick up, there'd be nobody on the other line. So it could be some sort of a paranormal thing that's going on. Early 2000s, the town erected a Mothman statue, and they have a Mothman festival every year. November 20th, 2016, an anonymous man who had just moved to the area was able to take a photo. He was able to snap photos of what appears to be this shadowy figure that looks like the Mothman flying through the sky in West Virginia. You see this winged creature. He had recently moved to Point Pleasant. So Kingman, Arizona, May 1953. This was at the peak of the Cold War. An unidentified object crashed into the desert and remains were shipped to Area 51. Now, why is this related? Well, in 1953, the government had an insectoid alien that was working side by side with them, allegedly. And the name was J-Rod, assisted military in duplicating advanced technology. And a microbiologist actually confirmed this claim. They confirmed the claims of what was going on. Bill Uhouse said that the government was doing this. He had been working at Area 51 in a secret lab. And he said that they actually had a living alien that was there, but it was an insectoid alien. Now, the microbiologist was Dave Burish, and he confirmed the claim that the alien was an insectoid, but it was not actually an alien, and it came from our future. So in the near future, apparently there will be a catastrophe. Mankind is destroyed and split into two species. Some will live underground, and they were saying about how above ground it will be uninhabitable. I mean, it's not too far-fetched to think about, right? And they would develop insectoid behaviors and traits because they are living underground. So this is exactly what is described by the Sunni, the Hopi, and the Navajo indigenous peoples. They said that during the transition period, they had to go underground to live with the ant people. And there's many sightings of insectoid or ant humanoids or ant aliens. So J-Rod could be an insectoid from the future who is a human being that had to live underground. So if humans from the future look like insectoids, could the Mothman have been attempting to warn the citizens of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, about the impending collapse of the Silver Bridge on December 15th, 1967? I feel that the Mothman may be a humanoid from the future, or a human being from the future that had to go underground, or maybe they are currently existing underground. But if it is from the future, and it is us in the future, and we look like insects, that's pretty trippy to think about. So you guys can decide for yourself. As always, draw your own conclusions. But that is the story of Mothman, and just a little bit about insectoids. I think that that would make sense. Mothman came from the future to warn the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that the bridge was going to collapse, and that's why there were so many sightings and premonitions and weird paranormal activity that happened before the actual collapse of the bridge. And then as soon as the bridge collapsed, Mothman was never seen again until allegedly December 20th, 2016. So that is it for this episode of The Witching Hours. I will see you next Wednesday night, early Thursday morning for another episode of The Witching Hours. Yeah. I'm your host, Kanaska Carter.